We're transmitting good evening philosophy of being, rising in love. And here we go.
Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, whenever you happen to see, read, no. Oh, you can read the transcription, yes. Listen to this video. Bert Hellinger's book, A Philosophy of Being, Rising in Love, published by Hellinger Sciencia in 2008. Where with the limits of conscious, order of rank, another fundamental law is revealed through the effects of the family conscience. In each group, there is an order of rank that gives preference to those who came first. This means that according to this order, I already read it in the other video. Well, I'll continue with the longing. Yes, I read it. No, I know we're inadvertently and without being aware, we follow those that came before us, and we live their fate without being aware of it until we come to this therapy, family constellations. The longing. A young woman experienced an insatiable longing that she could not explain to herself. Eventually, she realized that it was not her own longing, but that of her half sister from her father's first marriage. When her father remarried, her half sister from the first marriage was not allowed to see him or his children from the second marriage. Her half sister eventually emigrated to Australia, and all possibility of contact seemed lost. However, the young woman managed to establish contact with her half sister in Australia and invited her to Germany on a visit. She even sent her a ticket. Their fates seemed irreversible, however. On her way to the airport to fly to Germany, the half sister disappeared. So, some fates are not irreversible. They have to happen that way. The tremor. In a workshop, started to shake uncontrollably. As the group facilitator came into resonance with this, he realized that this trembling must belong to another person. He asked her, "Whose trembling is this?" She replied, "I do not know." He continued to question her. "Is it perhaps a Jew?" She replied, "It is a Jewish woman. When she was born, a Nazi official had visited her mother to congratulate her in the name of the party. All the while, a young Jewish woman was standing behind the door. The trembling belonged to this woman who was hiding in their house." The fear. A couple had been together for many years, were not living together because the man insisted that he could only find appropriate work far away in another city. When it was pointed out to him in a therapy group that he could find the same work in the place where his wife was living, he found other excuses. It became obvious that there was a hidden reason for his behavior. His father had spent many years far away at a clinic with severe tuberculosis, and on the rare occasions when he had visited, he was always fearful that his wife and children might become infected. Although this danger was long past and the father had recovered, the son took over the same anxiety, the same fate. He kept away from his wife as though he too were dangerous. Gone astray. A young man in danger of suicide told a therapy group that as a child he had asked his maternal grandfather, "Grandpa, when you are going to die?" "Grandpa, when are you going to die and make room?" The grandfather laughed heartily, but the child was never able to forget this sentence. His therapist suggested to him that this question was verbalized by a child because it would have been unspeakable by anyone else. They decided to investigate the family situation and discovered that many years ago the child's other grandfather had started an affair with his secretary. At the same time, his wife became ill with tuberculosis. The sentence, "When will you die to make room?" seemed to belong here, even if the grandfather was not conscious of it. It referred to his wife, and in this way, the secret wish was fulfilled. His wife died. Now, however, his descendants unknowingly took it upon themselves to atone for his guilt, innocently guilty. First of all, his son prevented his father from benefiting from the death of his mother. He ran away with the secretary. Then a grandson took it upon himself to speak the calamitous sentence and to atone for it. He was in danger of committing suicide. The atonement. I am reporting this case as the client told it to me in a letter. The client's great-grandmother married a young farmer and in due course became pregnant. During her pregnancy, her husband died of what was diagnosed as nerve fever at age 27 on December 31. Traumatic events in the family since his death pointed to something untoward. It became known that during her first marriage, the great-grandmother had had an affair with, with the man who was later to become her second husband, and there was a suspicion that the death of the first husband was linked to this. The great-grandmother married her second husband, the great-grandfather of the client, on January 27th. This great-grandfather died in an accident when his son was 27 years old. 27 years later to the day, a great-grandchild of this man died in the same way. Another great-grandchild went missing at the same age. Still another great-grandchild went crazy at the age of 27, around December 31st, the day the great-grandmother's first husband had died. He then proceeded to hang himself on January 27th, the anniversary of the great-grandmother's second marriage. His wife was pregnant at the time, as was the great-grandmother when her first husband died. The son of the man who had hanged himself, that is, a great-great-grandson of the great-grandfather of the client, was 27 years old a month before my client wrote this letter. My client had the feeling that something could happen to this relative and that he would be most at risk around the time of the death of his father. Because of his fear, my client had been to visit him to protect him and had taken him to the father's grave. After that, the mother told my client that her son went psychotic on December 31st, throwing a revolver in the air and making preparations to kill himself. She and her second husband were able to stop him on that occasion. This happened exactly 127 years after the death of the great grandmother's first husband at the age of 27 on December 31st. It is worth mentioning that my client's relatives had no knowledge of the great grandmother's first husband. In the meantime, it was established that he had died from poisoning. Here we can see the effect of a dreadful deed in a family carried into the fourth and fifth generations. Of course, the story is not yet finished. A few months after his letter to me, my client, in a great panic, made an appointment to see me. He felt suicidal and unable to fight his suicidal thoughts. I suggested that he imagine himself standing in front of his great grandmother's first husband, looking at him, and then I asked him to bow deeply to him and say, I am acknowledging and honoring you. In my heart, you have a place. Please bless me if I stay alive. Then I let him say to his great grandmother and to his great grandfather, whatever your guilt, I shall leave it with you. I am only the child. Then I asked him to imagine extricating his head from a noose around his neck and backing away from it. After this, he felt released and freed from his suicidal thoughts. The great grandmother's first husband has since become a good friend and protector. The solution. In the last example, I showed how the demands of the family conscious can be met in a truly healing way that releases the innocent descendants. Those who have been excluded are honored and receive the place and rank that is due to them. Those who follow later in the system can then leave the guilt and its consequences behind, where they belong. They can withdraw from the guilt and the burden with humility. Thus, the system balances itself again in a way that brings acknowledgement and peace for all. The insight. The underlying principles of the family conscious make themselves known in our relationships and in their effects. If we understand these effects, then we can transcend the limits of the family conscious through insight. This insight knows where conscience blinds us, frees where consciousness binds us, hinders where consciousness pushes us to act, galvanized where consciousness paralyzes, and loves where consciousness separates us. The path. A son went home to see his father and asked of him, Father, bless me before you leave. The father said, My blessing shall be, I'll take you for a little walk along the path of knowledge for a little while. The next day they stepped out into the open, climbed from their narrow valley up high onto a mountain. The day was getting old as they reached the height, but now, as far as the horizon, the land lay in the sun's last light. The sun sank, and with it all its splendor. Night fell, but in the darkness they began to see the stars. I will stop here. If we have another title, Orders of Love Between Parents and Children and Within a Group. Thank you very much. Thank you. I will continue in another video. Thank you.
Oh, gotta stop this. Yes, before it continues. Thank you. I'll continue in another video. Thank you very much. Good night, good evening, good morning. Until the next video. Thank you. Gloria Davila with you.